Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of CEO Conversations, the Private Practice Podcast. It's Brandy, Mabra, and are you in a place where you get distracted by like your team's needs? There's the next fire that has to be put out. There's like this endless to-dos of things that feel more important than you actually stepping into the vision that you have for your practice and going after what you want when it comes to the impact that you want to make, the lifestyle that you want to live, the amount of money that you want to make, how you want to work your schedule, like all the things. Well, for today, this is your episode that you need to definitely watch or listen to because we're talking about scaling distractions. Welcome to CEO Conversations, the Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Scaling distractions is interesting. There's like a whole guide that I've sent out to my CEO Moves newsletter. And when we're thinking about scaling distractions, it's like the sneaky little energy suckers that come up that can take your time, can take your essence, can make you be burned out, overwhelmed, and you're like, what happened? Well, you ended up focusing on something that felt like you were scaling your practice, where it thought that you were moving your practice forward, but really it just put you on the hamster wheel in a circle going around, and running around like a chicken with your head cut off. If this is resonating, it can show up in a couple of different ways. And there's 3 types of scaling distractions that I see as I'm working with private practice owners. And I'm going to talk about just some of the red flags, right? When like, how do I know that I'm in a place of a distraction versus actually moving the practice forward and doing work that feels productive? This is story time. There was a call that I had with a client, and it's a client that I've worked with going on almost 2 years. And it's like the same type of symptom happening over and over and over and over again. And what's happened is that she has purposefully put things on her plate in order to distract her from the work or the next stage of business growth that she knows. It's not the awareness of I don't know that's actually going to take her to the next level. For her, it was billing. And this can happen at different stages. Like I have 7-figure practice owners. I'll be perfectly honest. 7-figure practice owners who are doing their own billing or trying to because they're nervous to delegate it or to hand it off. And so for this particular client, it was billing, admin things, just filling up her days, compared to actually moving into a new space that she needed to move into, like a physical location, compared to hiring higher level team members, hiring a different type of provider because there's a specialty that she wants to bring into her practice. And so in order to keep her from doing those things, she decided to fill her days with billing. And that is the prime example of a scaling distraction. Billing's important. You know, it's one of the key functions within a practice. Collecting money keeps the practice alive. If there's no money coming into the practice, how are you going to sustain, right? So it's important, and you can talk yourself into it. You can definitely say, well, it's money. If I don't do it, and then money won't come in, I'm not going to be able to pay bills. I'm not going to be able to make payroll. 110%. The problem is, it's keeping you from making more money, right? From the practice being more profitable, from you having more time, and for you to make the impact that you truly want to make, and for you to step into the vision that you have for yourself. So you can really, really give yourself an argument for a scaling distraction. But there's 3 types of ways that a scaling distraction can show itself. Usually scaling distractions come from within your hiring, with the services and the practice model, and then definitely operationally where scaling distractions show up. For hiring, distraction number 1. So with this, it can be the team that you need to hire for the practice today. And instead, you're hiring the team that is easier, but not necessarily appropriate. So what does that mean? Well, it's easier to hire a part-time admin right? Or a part-time provider or a 1099 provider or clinician versus let me go ahead and do a full-time person where there's a higher level of risk. It's easy for me to be in an office that is crammed and we've maximized it and we are busting out of the seams compared to opening up the second location and hiring the team for the second location. Or where, and I've done this, where I've overextended my team trying to run multiple locations and having them run from one place to another place compared to being more streamlined and efficient, or hiring the right person that can actually take on like the second or third location. So this can happen in so many different ways where it's a scaling distraction, and scaling distractions, if you haven't picked up on it, come from a place of fear, right? So it's the excuse that you're giving yourself for not adding the level of sophistication that your practice needs. And it costs you money, it costs you time, it costs you freedom. So getting very clear on what distraction is happening, and when, especially when it comes to hiring the right team, then you can spend your days and hours, especially for the folks who have been in this place of working with the wrong team. I don't have the money to hire the right team. I can't hire the right team. I don't have time to lead the right team because I'm busy with focusing on all this other stuff. So that is hiring distractions. The second distractions, when we're thinking about service distractions, is where you're kind of bouncing between all of the different types of services that you can provide and not understanding how the services that you have within your practice, or the service lines, or the modalities, or the disciplinaries, like whatever, the specialties, whatever you want to call it, how does it serve the person that you're actually seeing inside the practice, right? So when we're thinking about the client and the patient, how does it serve the person when we're thinking about your services? There are profitable service lines in every single practice. And oftentimes the scaling distraction is, let me bring in something completely random that has nothing to do with my person because I saw someone else see it or someone else do it. And it looks like it's been working for them and it looks like that it's successful, but it's not a good match for your practice. That's a scaling distraction compared to where you know your person, the avatar that's coming into your practice. Because every single practice, if you want to go back and listen to some of the marketing episodes or go back and watch, you can do that. But the avatar that's inside of your clinic is important for you to know, like the back of your hand, right? So a lot of times what people say about me is, Brandy, how do you know? Like, I feel like you're talking to me. I feel like whenever you're speaking, she must be a fly on the wall seeing me do what I'm doing. And it's because, first of all, I've been in your shoes, so I can speak from a place of experience. But the other part of it is I'm very in tuned and I'm listening. I'm always listening to what our clients are asking for. I'm always listening to what people who maybe don't even work with me are asking for. I'm very in tuned with doing marketing research, like on social media or just being out in the community. From a healthcare perspective, I have a lot of colleagues that are in healthcare, so I'm always listening out for what is my avatar struggling with, what is coming up for my avatar. And so when it comes to your practice, you need to do the same thing, right? And so you need to know your person, so that way as you're making decisions for service model and how you're showing up for them and the specialties or the services that you're bringing into your practice, it makes sense. If you are bringing in something that is not going to be profitable or something that isn't going to help you truly move the practice forward, it's a distraction. It's a scaling distraction. And it will feel like, oh, I just hired this provider that's going to do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to be amazing. But you have not checked your avatar. You have not checked on if you even have part of your panel who can fill the schedule. You have not checked what your referral process needs to be. You have not checked to make sure that the market, like the supply, actually meets the demand. It's more or less of, oh, this sounds good. Another scaling distraction, this even goes back to hiring, and it drives me crazy. For those of you who have worked with me, I probably have said this to you at some point in time. I hate when people talk about how many providers that they've hired. It means nothing to me whatsoever. Like, you could say, I have 65 providers. I have 100 providers. I am not impressed. I am not impressed by the number of providers that you have hired. What is impressive is if your practice is actually profitable and if those schedules are filled, because you can hire providers till the cows come home. You can have contractors, you can have W-2s, you can have part-time. It does not matter. It's a vanity metric. And if those providers are not filled, if you are struggling to fill the schedules, if patients are not coming in, if you do not have a sound referral process, if you are not profitable and you're losing money and you're struggling to make payroll, I don't care what the revenue is, that's not good. That's a scaling distraction, right? So a lot of times people will come and say, I have so many providers. It means nothing. I mean, you're talking to somebody who's had 100 plus employees, right? In multiple locations. And I know what can happen in that. And so I'm always hesitant when someone puts their claim to fame and they attach it to how many providers that they have in their practice. No, I want to see your profit, and I want to see your SOPs, and I want to see how efficient your workflows are, and then I'll be impressed. So it's such a scaling distraction. The third one is the operations. So your operations are meant for you to be able to step out of the day-to-day. Right. And so a scaling distraction can come up where you put your hat on and you're in the weeds and you're like, I'm going to do all the things myself. Going back to my client, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take on the role of X. And that is a scaling distraction. You need to be the CEO at all times. And even as the practice gets bigger and you get to a place of truly stepping into founder and you're able to hire somebody who can even really, truly think like a CEO, like that is magical. And anything where you're putting yourself back on the schedule or you're putting yourself in the admin role or you're taking phone calls, unless if you're doing market research, that's the only time to do it. Me and my family, we were watching The Intern. It's like a movie that came back. It's like, I think it's like top right now on Netflix or whatever. So if you want to see, it's a cute little movie. But anyways, The Intern, and a couple of things that came up for me as I was watching it is she was in process of potentially replacing herself as the CEO. And also she was very in tuned to her company because she was involved in the day-to-day. But how she was involved in the day-to-day was she was stepping into the mind of her customer, right? So there's a scene where she's taking a phone call and a complaint had been escalated to her. And how she resolved the phone call was market research. Also, she wanted to be in tune with what the buyer needed. Another scene is where she would order packaging and have it shipped to her house so she could see how it was wrapped, and she could make sure that her team was actually quality control made sense. And so there's a scene where she's sitting there with her team and she's reteaching them how to wrap and making sure that everything's on point from a quality control standpoint. Those are appropriate. But she's not sitting up there trying to be the customer service agent or let me be the gift wrapper in order to make sure that it's done correctly. No, she's teaching. She's refining. She is the point of let me smooth over situations from a service perspective. Like all of those are where you insert yourself. If you are inserting yourself because you're trying to carry this cape of making sure the practice makes money, or making sure that the practice has what it needs, that's not freedom, right? And so that's an operations scaling distraction. So those are the three when we're thinking about it. Is the scaling distraction is the hiring, the services, and the delivery. So to end this episode, I am going to give you a couple of questions that I have so that way you can think about, am I in a scaling distraction or am I setting myself up for success? So number one is, what's one distraction pulling you away from scaling your practice? Like where, and is it coming from a place of fear? Right? So if you are in a place of, I really would love to step back from the day to day, what's coming up for you? And what do you need to implement in order for you to be successful? Question number two is, what's one strategy you can put in place to remove the distraction? So going back to my client, she's actively looking for a biller to help step in so that way she can get billing off of her plate. I'm so excited. It was like the best call. When we talked about it, I was like, yes, yes, yes. The third question that I'm going to leave you with is, what's the biggest thing that might get in your way of following through? So a lot of times, especially when we think about strategies or when we think about like, oh, I can do this, this, and this, even if you're pulling up ChatGPT and ChatGPT gives you all the list of things, it's the mindset piece, right? It's the obstacle to the strategy. It's the accountability. At this point in time, that's why coaching is so powerful. It's the accountability. It's the point of giving you somebody who can be a resource, but also hold you to the fire to what you want inside of your practice and inside of your life. So what is the obstacle to the strategy? I always ask my clients that question. What is the obstacle to the strategy? Because that's really the strategy that you need to implement. It's for the obstacle, not so much what you're trying to do inside of your practice. So your 3 questions are, what's one distraction pulling you away from scaling your practice? What's one strategy you can put in place to remove it? And what is the biggest obstacle that could get in the way of you following through on it? So that is your scaling distractions episode for today. So if you need some additional support and you are in a place of, man, I have a lot of distractions I need to get off of my plate, then I would love for you to join me for my next Private Practice CEO Lunch and Learn. It's 5 days of support where I'm working with you to help you get your time back, get you out of the weeds of your practice, help you make more money, and definitely giving you all the tools and resources that you can get for 5 days for 1 to 2 hours of coaching and training in order to make sure that you're set up for success. So you can see the show notes to go ahead and get in for the next Lunch and Learn. That is going to be happening July 28th through August 1st. So plenty of time for you to go ahead and put it on your calendar, to get it scheduled, to get it blocked off. And one of the things I will say, if you are in a position where you can't take 1 to 2 hours out of your day, or you can't take 10 hours out of your week, you definitely need to go ahead and come. So if you're like, oh my God, I don't have time to do this, you need to come. So go ahead, see the show notes, and sign up for the Private Practice CEO Lunch and Learn today. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.